Good evening. Welcome to Stories by the Fireside. Thank you for joining us for our last storytelling event. Tonight we will have presentations from the Albuquerque Public Schools Indian Education Department's youth programs. We will also have Laura Jagles from Tesuque, Pueblo, share her story on the Pueblo canes, which is also in our Indigenous Wisdom curriculum lessons. Thank you for joining us for this evening's Story by the Fireside. We hope you enjoy tonight's stories. Thank you for watching.
Casey Casey Chapman Lectioner. What Gekeli Quadan Bichi Kwawan Chatle. What 7 Bar Elementary Auntie Noshea. What Stempler Debbie Quaker. Hi, my name is Casey Chapman. My clans are Eagle and Crow. I go to school at 7 Bar Elementary and I am 10 years old. Look at Shumak'olo on Denanne. This is the Dragonfly song. Line up. Deontay, Frank, Chrislyn, myself, Mariah, Jalen, Nathan, Kaylani, Kendall, and Alyssa.
Look at Shumak'olo,
Untitled E. Look at Shumak'olo, Untitled E. Lunagana, Leque Shumak'olo.
Look at Shumak'olo, soon hungry, Benashe. Look at Shumak'olo, soon hungry, Benashe. Sitokana, Leque Shumak'olo.
Look at Shumak'olo, Ma'Gaquin, Benashe. Look at Shumak'olo, Ma'Gaquin, Benashe. Willalo Anna, Leque Shumak'olo.
Look at Shumak'olo, one day, one queen, Benanne. Look at Shumak'olo, one day, one queen, Benanne. Gao Quilena, Leque Shumak'olo.
Waya Henaya Leque Shumak'olo. Hong Yao and Itiadu Leque Shumak'olo. Hong Yao and Itiadu Leque Shumak'olo. Waya Henaya Luke Shumak'olo, Iamaquin, Benanse. Luke Shumak'olo, Iamaquin, Benanse. Domiakiana, Leque Shumak'olo.
Look at Shumak'olo, Manika Queen, Benanse. Look at Shumak'olo, Manika Queen, Benanse. Domolagana, Leque Shumak'olo.
Waya Henaya Leque Shumak'olo. Hondu and Itiadu Leque Shumak'olo. Hondu and Itiadu Leque Shumak'olo. Waya Henaya Hook Christmas, autumn, shepherd, Lashina, hum, ano diwa, hot, donna, shikwe, dance, horachini, awan, chala, hot, astasha, dopideya, dot, debi, quake, hot, Janet Khan, now share. This is a Christmas. Look at Christmas Denanne. This is a Christmas song sung to the tune of We Wish You a Merry Christmas.
Don't Kettsanishshi A Dept.
Don't Kettsanishshi A Dept. Don't Kettsanishshi A Dept. Christmas dewa. Han Kettsanishshi A Dept. Han Kettsanishshi A Dept. Han Kettsanishshi A Dept.
Christmas dewa.
Shumana Depi Kettsanishshi A.
Don't Shumana Depi Kettsanishshi A. Don't Shumana Depi Kettsanishshi A.
Don't Chimana Depi Kettsanishshi A.
2021.
Keshikoton sunnakanapke. Lukja shiwitma telapnanne. Kakalitap suski. Jatokatap jaonan hansikja. Kjakos inode. Suski sat alluk. Ima kjaki suski kakalia sat allup unak. Kakali oksiko aaviatanan. Oksiko saknan. Hish oksik itok. Suski tsemekja.
Ma hinig ho kyakeli ili lata kiana akya ho mashiu itonakya ili kiana.
Suski kakalia leani kwek.
Kuaya hon ili lata kiana akya hon okshiko latana.
Kakali le kwekja.
Kupleani.
Suski pekja.
Ma akya hon mashiu itonakya ili kiana.
Suski tap kakali achi ia shiwa achi ian sewa nan achi iwili sat alluk achi iwili sat allu kakali hish oksiko awiatek lasnap de suski tom noma atsana awiatek di ana suski Kja kotle ana, dem hish ulohnan tekwinnan pottik, kwa dem jatok katap jaonan aachia, apo jan animoknank, suski penna satikek.
Kuaya di ma hinig akya kwa ho kwa ho sakna ma da kwa ho onakyana ma kwa ho duname hish dekwina.
Suski kakalia leanikwek.
Dosh ayu yana hoshon ohanan awadun ona.
Kakali ansewa kek.
Kuaya Hishto Mosa Bene Hot Map Sunha Queen Dathna Iskon Tekohanan Deaye Si Ana Hon Teshukiana.
Aachi jatok katap jaonan sunha kuin tahna teshukyanak. Allu imat achi shiwin an techik. Achi shiwin an techik. Otiwa. Otiwa pawan achi temayak. Achi tem temayat. Hish tekwante ayuchi an tehwit an tekohatik. Imat achi tekohanan illapa. Achi tekohanan andeshemanan selon sana tap selon sana anastishenak. Selon sanan jatok ulike, selon sanan jaonan ulike, Suski hish yuchi atika. Suski kakalia duku atinan le anikweke.
Kuaya tostuna kya honteko hanan lana andeshima onna ashu ilapa anahanlishe.
Kakalia ansewa keke.
Eye hotunakia ma honquato mosabene wanshokeshe dem oti dechunekedap hanselun sana hansina.
Kowi hostela up oti techunik. Ashuyam gakwin awag. Dehwit an kwa chuhos chu. Suskitem duna walunde. Kakali lahinan. Selon sana hansinan lahike. Kakali lahi. Suski sish tom tom kwena yelahnan. Kakalia tapanak. Achi an ake. Dom koi telana suski kakalia anwe achok.
Kuaya ma dachi ho lelon iseatu.
Kakali le kweke.
Holo, holo, kwa hesto kyagi kwa hos ele de unama.
Achi kohos telanana anap. Da suski teuke. Suski kakalia le ani kwek.
Kuaya do mosi kwa ed do lelon isashu kwa dom ho suski kop aho iatina.
Kakali suskia ani pisotik. Leha paimat awitenakan selon isea tunana hos ayasak. Kakali suskia ansewak.
Haia ma koma dom kowi delanana do thelon de atu. Lesnap de esto thelon ahti namdu.
Suski le kwek.
Ma kwa ho lelon astishu kwa.
Das ache ita panna kya lesnap de sish kakali. Iehkwikap. Suski ialuk. Ialuk nan suski tsemekke.
Kochi ima tokahan ina. Ama ho heshina duna kwa dodu. Hon kwa ho lal da lelonan ue hon kwa ho I lal ul ona kya kiri yokya iha.
Suski lelon anasti kya. Lelon asti hap yatok ketap ya onan ulle. Ima kakali yatok ketap ya onan kuilete achia uluke. Suski chimhish lelon asti hap ya onan ana kwainan an ana le hos apo ya kuin tahna. Ikeatonas apo yan iteak. Hish lesa kaya de tem salena awanak. Akusnan awisosodik. Lestikinin dem katata awan hayachi awananan abilak. Lestikinin yatok kahishle hoslamishi apo yakuintahna tala hinan iteak. Hish hoslamishi apo yakuin iteak konakke lesakayate. Mochiko, mopiawe, memowe, tapmol aknana awanakhe. Kakaliam iketekwin ikwas lahik. Lahinan suskia teshukia kakalia suskia le anikwek. Awe achok.
Histo de condensana dunadi kopto leukia do thelon ahti hap yato kedap ya onan achi ana kwaike Akia hish ashe detetike.
Dem kakalisuskia anapente he quat upinakia ishashe upinakia istetzetik. Tetzetip suskis sish itzumatinan don sipipi boak. Kakali lekwik.
Duna dom te makuina kia dem ulo nan detetike.
Inamiste. Lukka pena mosa. Ta lukka telapnan an pena iste. Qua suski meshuk amme ketap. Ta qua ampis amme ketap. Qua te tetsetishuquak. Qua hon tehtsina illapshuquak. Hon ishammaste olo ike. Illa penna wanke. Ma wan lewi. Le sem konik.
Good evening and welcome to our virtual storytelling. My name is Jordan Sosi and I will be facilitating this portion of this event. Among Native Americans, wintertime is the time for storytelling, and it is our goal to carry on this tradition with you tonight. Our first story will be presented to you by Rudel Roman, and his story will be Rabbit's Long Ears.
Hello, my name is Rodel Roman. I am a 17-year-old from the school Early College Academy, and I am telling you the story of Rabbit's Long Ears. Long ago, when Creator made the desert, one of the first animals he made was Rabbit. Back then, Rabbit did not have the long ears he has today. Rabbit was made to be Creator's helper and to take all the animals to their new home. He was to tell them what to eat, who to be friends with, and all of the necessary things to do to survive. After some time, Rabbit did not want to listen to Creator anymore, and all he wanted to do was to play around. One day, Creator asked Rabbit to take Turtle to his new home. As they were walking, Turtle asked, "Why did Creator make me so slow and have this big shell on my back?" Rabbit had not listened to Creator, so he replied, "Oh yes, because you're not as smart as me." Turtle was shocked. The following day, Rabbit was taking Bobcat to his new home. When he asked Rabbit, "Why did Creator make my tail shorter than all the other animals?" Once again, Rabbit had not listened to Creator, so he replied, "Because Creator ran out of the long ones?" After hearing that, Bobcat became very sad. A couple days later, Rabbit was taking Roadrunner out to his new home. While they were walking, Roadrunner asked, "Rabbit, do you know why?" When he noticed that the three animals were talking to each other and discussing what Rabbit has said. And Creator has come down to discuss what happened. Creator said to Turtle, "I gave you that big shell on your back so you will always have a home where you go." And Bobcat, "I made your tail short because where you live there are a lot of thorns and stickers." And Roadrunner, "I made your wings short because everything you do and eat is always on the desert floor and you do not need to fly." All the animals understood what Creator has said and they went off with a happy life. Now they knew the real reasons for why they were made and were walked away off happy. Meantime, Creator became very disappointed in Rabbit, so that night, while Rabbit was sleeping, Creator paid a visit to Rabbit. He made a few changes off of his own. Creator stretched Rabbit's ears out to make them longer than all the other animals. And until this day, Rabbit has the biggest ears of them all and is the best listener.
Thank you, Rudel. What are some things that you think our audience can learn from this story?
Always take in consideration of what you have and always admire those that you have around you. Do not waste the time with those, and always listen to those who are speaking to you.
That's a good takeaway. Our next story will be presented to you by Felice Foster and is The Thunder Beings.
Hi, I'm Felice Foster. I am 17. I am half Navajo and half Hispanic. Long ago, there was Grandfather Thunder. He was one of the first people, while the moon was the first mother. Madoc, an evil horned serpent monster, destroyed the water keeper, who protected us from water monsters. Since then, the thunder beings protect us by shooting them with their firing lightning arrows and making sure they don't disturb the harmony upon earth or us. But as time passed by, Grandfather Thunder was slowly forgotten. Unlike Grandmother Moon, who was always remembered and honored by us, he became bitter and was in low spirit over the neglect and forgetfulness of him. In anger, he came from his home, the west, calling out in a voice that shook the heavens and earth. Hidden in the clouds, he crossed right over homes and villages of us. In his fiery rage, he shot lightning arrows down upon the earth, hurting us and Mother Nature. With his clouds of tears and cries of sorrow upon the earth, moving from one place to another. At first he would come alone, but after a while his many children, the thunder beings, came along with him. They would bring fear to our people. Some would come from a cave under the falls, as we know today as Niagara Falls, while others came from mountains, where they often made homes, often bringing dark clouds and lightning, with the sound of thunder being the roar of their wings. While the thunder beings shaking the rattles filled with bones, with which shook the sky, making our people most fearful. Napush finally saw that we, his grandchildren, were in distress. So came to help us by saying, "You have hurt and insulted your grandfather, Thunder." Through the lack of respect and thought for him, grandfathers need to be remembered and honored too, for they are also like grandmother, having shared the gift of life and helping their grandchildren in the future. So when you first hear Grandfather Thunder in the spring telling you that winter has ended and that life is again coming to the earth, burn tobacco and greet your grandfather with prayers. Whenever you hear his voice, do this, and you will gain his protection, and lightning will not strike you. Grandfather Thunder is in charge of the rains that water the earth and make your crops grow. With the proper respect, he will be thankful, bringing blessings to you and protecting you from the horned serpents and water monsters, and he will come and bring you warnings. From that time to this, our Grandfather Thunder and our people have always been close. We listened to our wise grandfather Napush, and we have always showed respect to old thunder beings and love them dearly, and we always give him thanks for his many gifts to all land and life upon Mother Earth.
Thank you, Felice, for that enchanting story. What is one of the bigger morals that you think is important?
I think that this story is talking about showing respect to not just your grandfathers, but the elderly in general. And it's telling you that you need to appreciate, love, and respect all people who love and support you, and not to forget who has always supported you.
Oh, that was a very thoughtful answer. The next story will be presented by myself. Hi, I'm Jordan Sosi, and I go to Albuquerque High School. I am a senior, And yes, the story I will be presenting tonight will be Buffalo and Coyote. Buffalo Coyote. The way the story goes is that one day, Coyote was traveling across the Great Plains hunting for food when he came across a great buffalo skull. Coyote was always afraid of buffalo and remembered that at all times buffalo scared him. Coyote began to laugh and said, "I think I'll have some fun and get buffalo back for all the times that he scared me." So Coyote picked up the skull and began to play with it. He threw it up in the air over and over until he got tired. Then he went on his way. Soon after he was walking, he heard some rumbling. He thought it was thunder, so he looked to the sky, but the sky was clear. "Oh well, maybe it was my imagination," Coyote said. Again he heard the sound of rumbling, but this time it was louder and closer. Coyote then turned around and saw Buffalo coming after him. His old enemy was back. Coyote ran as fast as he could, but Buffalo gained steadily. Coyote pleaded to the higher powers for help, and a tree appeared. Coyote quickly jumped up on the tree, just as Buffalo was about to ram him. As Coyote sat in the tree, Buffalo began to ram the tree trunk with his horns over and over. Then Coyote said, Wait, let's talk about this." Coyote replied, "No, I will not talk with you. You made fun of my bones, and I've had enough enemies already." Coyote said, "But you need new horns, and I can make them for you. Then you can protect yourself from all your enemies." Coyote was pleased with this idea and agreed to let Coyote down from the tree. Coyote then started to carve a fine set of horns, and then gave them to Buffalo. Buffalo liked his new set of horns, and so he and Coyote became friends. Buffalo even helped Coyote hunt. Buffalo warned Coyote, though, "Never eat all the meat so that you will always be assured of more." For a while, Coyote followed Buffalo's advice. One night, Coyote built a big fire to cook the meat that Buffalo had helped him catch. As he began to smell the cooked meat, he thought, "I can't take this any longer," and he began to eat everything, even the bones. Eventually, he fell into a deep sleep, and all of a sudden, Coyote jumped awake from the bad dream he had. Coyote looked around and cried out, "Where did she go? Where did it go? Where's all my food?" Coyote soon became hungry again and started to look for Buffalo. When Coyote found Buffalo, he asked him, "Buffalo, can we hunt together again? Can you share your food with me?" Buffalo then replied to Coyote, "No, Coyote, you didn't listen to me. If you had, you would still have the food, and you wouldn't be begging me today." And this is why, to this day, Coyote is always running around looking for food. I think that something that is a big part of this story, one of the morals, is that you shouldn't be impatient, and when someone tells you something, you shouldn't just jump into it, and you should wait and learn patience and virtue through little things like that. This concludes our leadership proportion. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you learned something tonight.
Umbi sengiku, na kawara tsawa gino kawa. Tesuque owinge eweri omo. Good evening. Hi, my name is Laura K. Jagles. I'm from Tesuque, Pueblo, and I'm also Shoshone and Paiute. Tonight, we're going to be enjoying Grandpa's Canes. It's a story that's included in the Indigenous wisdom curriculum. The story is a creative nonfiction piece I wrote about my experiences with my grandfather, Dept, while growing up in Tesuque, Pueblo. So, let's get ready to learn a little bit about Laura K, Dept, and the Pueblo Canes. As the sky altered its shade to pale blue, I couldn't bear the silence. Grandpa, why do you carry those sticks? What sticks? The ones with the shiny tops. Oh, those ones. Why, they belong to the governor. Are you the governor? Yes. How did that happen? Well, sometime after the year ends, the old menfolk get together and they decide who will be good leaders for the village. Then, on the day of the new year, all the men meet to talk about the past year. Then they talk about the new year and the hopes they have for the people. When everyone is done, the old menfolk appoint the officials. There is the governor, lieutenant governor, sheriff, 4 war chiefs, and 2 church keepers. Grandpa was a fairly modest man, yet I had some pretty idealistic thoughts about him. I thought you were the only leader because you carried those sticks. Grandpa chuckled at my outrageous thought that he could be the only leader. Those sticks are canes. Different people gave them to the old governors before me. Around the year 1620, a long time before I was born, a man from another country called Spain sent the first canes to different Pueblo governors in all of New Mexico. He was a king. King Felipe is what they call him. His country was in charge of all the Pueblo people at that time. He speaks Espanol, just like the Spanish do in Santa Fe. I never doubted what Grandpa told me about the first Spanish king, and what he said was true. I wasn't into princesses, so I did not ask Grandpa if the king had a queen or daughters who were princesses. The pale blue sky lasted a long time as Grandpa continued telling me about the canes. He started to untie his brown suede work boots when I bugged him with more questions. You talk like the Spanish too, huh, Grandpa? Sí, yes, I learned to talk like them. Grandpa paused long enough for me to watch 2 baby ants crawl up the 5-inch slab of cement that formed the porch we sat on. To the ants, it was a towering gray skyscraper they attempted to scale too often and failed. One got a little too close to me and I tried to flick it away gently, but I must have squashed it because it suddenly smelled like bananas. After my curiosity with the ants ceased, I looked at Grandpa and he continued his story. And so, the first cane the king gave us was made of brown wood, and it had a shiny top, like you said. The shiny top was made of silver. It had a cross melted into that silver top. But why was Grandpa talking like the Spain cane didn't have those things anymore? Was it because it was really that old? Grandpa unbuttoned the cuffs of his plaid shirt and began rolling his sleeves up so he could feel the cool, dusky air on his forearms. Somewhere along the way, this cane was lost or sold by someone, so we don't have it any longer. It's too bad. I could tell that Grandpa was thinking a lot about this cane because he started rubbing his coarse hands together. He finished scratching his right wrist with the fingernails from his left hand when I reached over to hold it. I liked Grandpa's hands, and he didn't mind if I held one now and again. They were rough from planting and picking corn, beans, and watermelon, crooked from weaving rugs and crocheting leggings, but honest, and dark from being out in the sun. Playing with the grooves, skin, and lines of a long life I discovered on his left hand, he continued. We have 4 canes. They are the ones you saw me hold when I gave advice at church. Each one holds the wishes and countless leaders before me, influencing what I say and how to lead our people. That is why they are so special. The canes help me to pray the right way, dewa turi, speaking in Tewa. When Grandpa spoke Tewa, it was as if I could see the words from inside his stomach, feel their way around, creep up his chest, and fly out his mouth, producing a flock of knowledge. I swallowed them like the bua with peanut butter, and the words stuck. The second cane was given by Mexico, he continued. Mexico? Aren't we in Mexico, Grandpa? No, Musa. We live in New Mexico, and it was called New Spain at one time because those Spanish people were in control of it. Mexico used to be controlled by Spain too, but they got away from that country too. And because the Pueblo people of Mexico wanted parts or all of the land we live in, it became theirs. They named it New Mexico. When Mexico knew about us Pueblo people, why then the men there decided to give us a cane too. Grandpa stopped talking to seek out more memories in his brain. They gave those canes and Grandpa scratched the balding top of his head, and using his facial muscles, he scrunched his forehead toward his nose. 1821, I think. The Mexican cane is similar to the Spanish one, and it has a silver top on it as well. Did you make those tops shine like your rings, Grandpa? Sometimes. I bet the shiny tops are made like this 7-Up can, but I can't drink out of them. I looked up from staring in wonderment of my association of the cane's silver top to my 7-Up can, and noticed that the blue hue faded into a soft, warm, yellow-orange color, accented by bright yellow sun rays making their way through the serenely white popcorn cloud formations. Grandpa let go of my hand to untie his other shoe. He turned it upside down to shake out the dirt he collected from the cornfield at his ranch. Even though I didn't go with him to his ranch, I collected similar amounts of dirt from playing in the arroyos with my older cousins. I took my tennis shoe off and emptied it just the same. I watched Grandpa, waiting for his signal to start taking off my socks. He reached for his and I copied him. We shook our socks upside down and watched dirt and pebbles fall. The dust they made was swept away by the cool night breeze. The sensation of taking our socks off was liberating. Our feet agreed and they no longer felt the 10 to 12 hour suffocation. Our soles touched the soothingly smooth and night-cooling dirt I wanted so much to put in my mouth. We watched the yellow-orange sunset suddenly turn deep blood red and land in the belly of the hills. But it was summertime, and Grandpa knew I could stay up, and he continued to tell me about the canes. With our feet comforted by cool dirt, Grandpa began again. The third cane was given by a United States president. Maybe you talk about him in your school. He was tall. He had no mustache, but a dark beard and always looked so serious in the pictures I saw. He started reaching into his front pocket and said, "Let me see if I have a penny. Ah, here's one." He placed the penny in his palm and pointed to the head side of it. "This is the man that gave us the third cane." I felt the copper with my small fingers and stared at this man I did not know. He must be a king too, to have his face on a penny, I thought. Grandpa didn't wait for comments from me and continued. Anyway, he gave us a cane that had a black stick with a silver top too. He had some menfolk put the year 1863 on it. He also has his name on it in that fancy writing that you are learning in 2nd grade. Cursive, I said excitedly. Right, that's the one. And it says A. Lincoln on it for Presidente Abraham Lincoln. Grandpa liked to combine Spanish with English or tewa with English, but I liked it. Grandpa was curious about the progress I was making with cursive writing because the only thing he knew how to write in cursive was his name, Guadalupe Duran. After I drew my name in the dirt as if I could see it, we saw headlights illuminating the dirt road leading the way to my ko'o and Matma's house. I wonder who that could be, Grandpa thought out loud. Maybe it's Mom coming to pick me up, I replied. The truck drove toward the side of the house and Tata stepped out. Umbi Sengeku. Good evening, Tata greeted us. He haran da eng na yawe. Why are you two both sitting outside? Eng hit ma eng. We're talking, Grandpa answered. Otu ave handi. Go inside then. Tata and Grandpa spoke tewa for a long time in the living room while I went into the kitchen to wipe the dishes. The dishes were like building blocks as I stacked plates and cups upon each other. I hummed, El Don Gato was a cat on the high red roof, Don Gato sat. He was la 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 meow meow meow. We were learning this song in music class and I liked it. No wonder Grandpa called me Musa. Engaged in my little world, I did not realize Grandpa had left with Matma until I finished wiping the dishes and looked into the living room. Tata sat on the couch and said, Laura Ray, okay, newe osoke. Come here, sit next to me. Where's Grandpa? He had to take care of some things. What were you two talking about earlier when I drove up? Tiong cafe da, Ko'o asked Tata. Do you want some coffee? Here, Rama. A little bit, Tata replied. Grandpa was telling me about this man, I urged Tata, holding the penny in my hand. Hey, Wan, did he tell you this man gave us one of the canes Dept carries? Uh-huh. He was going to tell me about another one when you came. Spain, Mexico, Abraham Lincoln? He told me 3 already. Tata shifted his sitting position on the couch and seemed to prepare himself to tell me more. Well, the Lincoln cane came from the United States, and we have another one from the New Mexico State Governor, too. In 1981, Governor Bruce King gave canes to the Pueblo governors at the state capitol building. Maybe you'll visit there someday on a school field trip. Nawa ube cafe. Ko'o handed Tata his coffee, and he placed it on the coffee table. Ko'o sat in the chair that matched the couch and turned down the volume to her Yankee baseball game, but she still watched it. So who gave the old governors the last cane, Tata? Taking a sip of his coffee, he began again. Last year, about summertime too, another king of Spain, Juan Carlos, gave the Pueblo governors some canes. There sure are a lot of kings in Spain, I said. Maybe he wanted to be remembered like King Felipe, who knows? But I guess it was a nice gesture. What's a gesture? I asked. A gesture is kind of like a way of doing something nice for others, Tata responded. Tata took another sip of his coffee, then he spoke. Well, another person is supposed to come visit the Pueblos again this year. He wants to offer the governors another cane, so that will make a total of 6 if we only still had the Spanish one too. This man offering the cane is one of Cristobal Columbus' relatives. Yeah, he's the one who discovered America, huh? Well, not really, hun. Pueblos and Native Americans were already here, but he was the first one from another land to cross the sea explore the land, and he tried to call the land his. But the land doesn't belong to one person, a country, or anyone. It just is. When is the man going to visit? He wants to meet with all the governors at San Juan Pueblo. I came to tell Dept about the meeting, and he went to ask the old men if they want to accept the cane as well. So Grandpa will be carrying a lot of canes, huh? If they decide to keep this one too. That's right. By the time Grandpa returned, Ko'o already put me to bed. Later, nearing the end of Grandpa's year as governor, my sister and I watched Ko'o prepare the canes to be given back to the old men to pass them on to the new governor. On December 31st, Ko'o took out her new rolls of cloth ribbons. Melinda, get the scissor from the kitchen drawer next to the oven. Melinda handed Ko'o the scissor. Ko'o cut roughly 18 inches off of 10 different colored rolls of ribbon diagonally along the rugged edges. These are pretty colors of ribbon, Melinda assured Ko'o as she put the newly cut ones on the couch and untied the old ribbons from Grandpa's canes. Melinda and I fought over the old ones as Ko'o put 2 different colors together and tied them around the bottom of the silver tip of one cane. I played with the new ribbons I managed to get while she was preoccupied. Nama'a, give me those. She grabbed 2 more from my hand and tied them around the neck of the second cane. By her tone of voice, I could tell she was annoyed, and finally, she took the rest from Melinda's hands and tied them in a bow like the others on the last 3 canes. The next day, January 1st seemed to drag. All the men were at the meeting Grandpa talked about earlier this summer. The first day of January always seemed like a long day for everyone in the village. Ko'o seemed impatient, excited, and worried. They're worse than ladies. I don't know why it takes them all day to decide. Ko'o and Matma lived just above the Head Start building where the men once held their meetings. You two, go play outside and watch for Dept and Matma. Let me know if they are on their way. As we grew older and more aware of the length of the meetings, we would watch from Ko'o's bedroom window to see if Grandpa and Matma would leave with the rest of the men. The men who were appointed left last, so if we didn't see them come out early, we would anticipate their return with more excitement than usual. Laura, get a pen and paper, so when Grandpa and Matma come in, we can write down the men's names. After Ko'o made her list of names with the title of their position next to each name, she left with Melinda. I stayed with Grandpa and Matma watching Wheel of Fortune while Ko'o and Melinda congratulated the new officials' families going house to house. Grandpa, who was still thinking about the day-long meeting, addressed Matma. The canes will bring those families luck this year for the sacrifices their man will make for a year's duty to his position and our people. Thank you very much for listening and joining the Stories by the Fireside. Look forward to joining again soon.
Watsi hopa, kaita hopa dawak skayasha, so hin mitzimak, kutiamunish aquame, usak hanuskish, ehemak zinata, ats aquame, soon yami wastiskish, kaita hopa dawak skayasha, zinata. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ron Shutiva. I am a descendant of the Acoma, or Aboriginal Acoma Sun Clan, and also born for the Acoma Zuni Eagle Clan. What a privilege that I do have this evening to address all of you, and especially you young people. You are the future of us as Native people. I want to encourage all of you young folks to do your part and also us as our part to fight this pandemic that we are facing. I know all of you are getting frustrated at home, just being home, nothing to do or whatever. But we need to do our part. We need to wear our masks because that's what my wife and I, we do. Once we step out of our home and go out into the public, we wear our masks all the time. That's what I really want to ask. Please do that. And I want to encourage you all to continue with your education. It may be frustrating. It may be just some things that you don't want to do and being taught at home. It's very difficult for you all to be doing your education at home. I understand that. You all get frustrated. You all don't want to do those things, but it's for the betterment of yourself. I really, truly want to encourage you all to continue with your education because the education is for your future. And also, it's a future for all of us as Native people. So with that, I want to go ahead and start by offering a prayer for all of us. And after I do my prayer, I'll go ahead and do an interpretation of my prayer that I will be offering this evening for all of us. So I also want to encourage all of you to say your own prayer in your own thought, in your own mind of what you have to pray for. And I want for you all to really pray from your heart and your soul and reach out into our Native American spiritual world and reach out to them to provide that guidance and to provide those blessings for all of us. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and do our prayer in my native language, which is Karisan from Acoma. So with that, let me go ahead and do our prayer this evening. As komtsakos kaitsina en kai yohima tanatsina hanya kitsina tokyo komtsinata. As mi hemetina wet chatsina tukharsinata. As mi hemetuna kaitsina kupst as keketik pukursa tukutsaka. As hema puersina anakmutsina shawi katsinata. As tekitsinata donatsina shahamukitim sinatina. Ammoniak sinata imetinata. Tanahatsina to hiatsantina kaitsina skui hatsinata. As mi hemetuna harsina amusahana tikamstina. As tuna stay hoentinata. As ink saasti kamsinata. Mi hemetuna hars amutsinata askuatseksinata. Komta hememi na hoentinata ikmutsinatsi osa. Na ketsanata isksai tusai chamstai kanstai kaiksinata. Kaime esena senishti kemstuesina hopasaisina. Amunia nicho tumatsinata. Kom hema tanatsina amus aiskim tanahatsina kikaatun sinata. Asta hoensinata eme hema pim usmestani tsina kuukan sinata. Nakepa kaime saisinas amutuk sinata. E hema tsina asnaits skina sinata. Doersinata amus aiskim sinas amutsina niasu sinata. Astawa umustawa tsen tawa utistan. Pasexina Chawaya and Sinata. The Ayusina Craft came housina sixtinata. Come Hema, Unatinata, Ashkitu, Porsatu, Kotaka, Sinata. Asina Han Hats, Hitch, Wake, Asina Star, Sinata. Pasek Pene, Satinata, Samut, Duke, Sina, Sena, Senestitum, Sinata. Come Hema, Sinata, Hoetinata. Asina no Kusuit, no Commerce, Sinata. As the gated book was out of Satas, Tahoentina, Tawashingtina Scout Tani, as they Kilsina Pinat Sina Scout Tani, Naketsati who waited when you Hani Sinata, as Southina Scones, Katats, Kaskamanis, Kasinan Sinata, as Sina hoping you Simantinata, the Kema, Mayun Sinata, you Sinata, and Court Sinata, as Saventina Skamas Katsen, as Yakatona Kanak Sina Scouts or Sinata. However, Sinatra, Oyats and Sinata, as Haventina, Amusina, Nayakan, Pustina, Asina, Scout Sinata, at Skyrskin Sinata. The use crap, the Emtina, Sena, Senestic, Sina, Hostina, Sixtinata. Kumhema Sinata, Ditpu Corsa Sinata, Astrayers can Sinata, Astina no Sweet no Comar Sinata, Dona Hatsinata, Shamushana, Atsinata, Imagina Gotium Cantinata, Honetinata, Etmutina Kutshani Sinata. Nakepami on the Tmutina, Umas Utsina, Trawa, Transina, Shana, Shanestit Sinata, Kumhema Sinata, Tahoenatinata, Asink Sashtikam, Leon Tahoenatinata, Etmutina, Hushantina, Gautran Sinata, Asina Saka, Hochan, Kumwakusita Hochan, Kum Hoekutinata, Nine Estitina, Kum Shumitina, Gautran Sinata, Vamiuntina, Hoen Umas Utsina, Trawa, Atsemok Sina Night, Stina, Leontina, Tawa Umash, Tawatin, Tawa Tistan, Bahoentina, Trawaya, Nitinata, Hea Mayun, the Gay Anitinata, Atsawentinata, Atsarti, Tina Scotrunch, Leontina, no, you say, Pusachinata, the Ayustina, Crop, Tina, Hositina, Shana, Shana, Stinata, Kumhema, Asinata, Nachamana, Kai, Cantinata. Tahoenatina, Nachtinata, Anatstina, Huchan, Etmutina, Tina, Nutsikotinata, Nutmuhema, Kaustinata, Ashaota, Hoenat Mina, Tietmu, Umas Utina, Newa, Trinit, Tusachinata, Etmu, Anetina, the Gayanitinata, Atsishkepi, Stina, Noitse, Kustinata, Atsawentina, Kashtinata, the Ayusina, Tina, Shana, Shana, Hositinata. Assim, Tarset, Sinata, the Nakazana Portut, my Hoot, Tina, Sakanya, Sinata, Asina, Opportune, Sina, which might get Sinata, Asiuka, Vasector, Sina, Hopa, Umas, Sina, Gawa, Sinata, Kumhema, Coen, Sinata, Hopa, Tina, Steiner, Christina, a Trayer, Sinata, Yuma, Imata, Natina, Shana, Shana, Stations, Etmoto, Sentinas, Amut, Sinata. Okay, Ani Kutimutina, Hui Shotina, Iani Hopatina, Quinatina, Kutimutina, Skawatina, at Anya Hoentina, Stiascomtina, Stilshopumtina, Da Hoentina, Skiatina, Kaiwag, Kumsematina, Usamentina, Skuokan, Da Us Hostina, Nutimutina, Sixtina, Da Hui Shotina, Frena, Frena Stations. We come to Mutina, Iani Mutina, House to Oatina, Da Dakuta. Thank you very much for all of you in taking part in the prayer that I had offered this evening. I started out with my prayer. I can just tell you in a nutshell of my prayer, but I started out by relying on our spiritual world in the different directions that we do have, the north, west, south, east, and in the universe, in our spiritual world, asking them to come and bless us. Because each morning as we rise, they also rise, bringing forth the blessings, the wealth, the knowledge to give to all of us. So I asked them to come upon us, to give us those blessings to all of us, and especially for our youth, so that they may endure this pandemic that we have. And also for all of us to endure the pandemic that we have. I also asked them to bless our relatives that have departed from us, so that they can also have a special place for them. And in return, that they can also provide us blessings to us. I had also further asked for blessings for all of us as Native communities, to bless all of our people, our land, our water, and our animals, and the air that we breathe. I also further ask blessings, especially for our young men and women that are in our armed forces. They provide the protection for us. I ask our spirits to give them guidance so that nobody comes and takes their breath away. their blood, their body, their spiritual being, so that they may return back home to their families and that they can see each other as such. And I ask also special blessings for our young folks that are out every which direction that we have, out there earning a living, getting an education, that they also be blessed so that they can also have their futures for themselves. And I also further then ask for the blessings for our current tribal administrations, whether be it those folks that are appointed to carry out in their roles as either their field chiefs, their war chiefs, their tribal government, the governors and their staffs, along with their tribal councils, to give them continued blessings, to give them continued insights to carry on for the betterment of their communities. And then I further requested blessings for the new coming tribal officials that will either be appointed or be elected for the next year, that they also be given the blessings and the proper thoughts for them to give the leadership for their people. And when I ended my prayer, I asked and I gave you those blessings that I asked for all of us. So with that, those blessings go back to all of you and to all of us, into our hearts and souls. So with that, that was my prayer in a nutshell. I know that some of my tribal people back home at Acoma that might hear me would understand my prayer. So with that, thank you for you all to take part in my prayer and the blessings that I had offered for all of us. And as I had mentioned earlier, here in the next few days, we are going to be having new tribal governments at our pueblos especially, whether be it appointed or whether they are elected. We have at home at Acoma an appointment that is conducted by our head family of our tribe in collaboration with our religious cultural people that we have at Acoma. And we as men were appointed to those positions. And we basically have to honor those particular appointments. I myself was appointed governor here many years ago for 3 consecutive terms, and we had 1-year terms. And I also served in the first lieutenant governorship, the second lieutenant governorship. I also served on the tribal council, and I also served as the chairman for the tribal council. So those particular duties we do not ask for. Those particular duties we are appointed to. And the governorship at home at Acoma, we have 2 forms. The traditional form, which is those men that are appointed to carry out our traditional cultural religious activities that we have. And then on the other hand is the tribal government, the tribal council, and the tribal administration, which consists of the governor, his staff of lieutenant governors, tribal secretary, and tribal interpreter, and tribal sheriffs. So that particular activity, we have a traditional appointment, a traditional process that we, I guess you can say, an inaugural process, because those canes are given to us by religious, cultural people, and those canes are passed down to us. An example is the governor's cane. That cane particularly came from Abraham Lincoln back in 1863. And that's another chapter in the Pueblo canes that is also featured for us there at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center through our educational program. So if you are interested, there is a lot of information that is there that can be shared, and you can do your research and get in touch with the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. So with that, I do really, truly appreciate, and I am very, very honored to spend these few minutes with all of you and to share with you a little bit of me. If I can be of any resource to anyone, I am always available. So with that, many blessings. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and thank you very much for your attention. And have a happy, happy New Year.